Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Can tinnitus alone, as a veteran with no dependents, be worth $1,663.06? Okay, that's a 70% rating for those that don't know. Can tinnitus be worth that? No, tinnitus cannot by itself because tinnitus is maxed down at a 10% rating. However, you can hang secondary conditions onto your tinnitus. So if your tinnitus is causing you other issues, that's how you can get that to scale up and potentially even go higher than that. I'm going to share with you a couple examples. I'm going to tell you how to figure out the VA monkey math and also drive you to a spot where you can figure it out yourself. So let's talk through it. Hit the thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. It helps the channel immensely, and it helps to get this information into the hands of those that need it. If you're not a member, consider joining. It does help the channel out immensely, and it helps me to find you in the comments. All right, let's jump into it. So tinnitus by itself, right, is a 10% rating. And how much is a 10% rating? Let's just pretend that it's the only condition you have is tinnitus, right? So ringing in the ears, ringing or buzzing in the ears. Could be one ear, both ears, could be constant, could come and go. Your monthly payment is $165.92. Now, what's going to happen is, let's use the example of your tinnitus is so bad that it's causing you mental distress, anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, insomnia. All of those are under the mental health umbrella. So now here's where it gets really nuanced, right? Everybody's story is going to be different. You might not have those conditions with tinnitus, so you might not be able to file for that. But you also may have those conditions, right? Again, insomnia would be one, depression, anxiety, those types of things could be related to your tinnitus, and you could have that as a secondary condition. Now, the interesting part here is that the mental health scale is going to give you, maybe 30%. You could get 50. Who knows? You might even get 70%. Mental health conditions can go up to 100% rating depending on the severity. So who knows where you're going to fall? In my personal experience, somebody who is filing for a non-PTSD claim and a non-MST claim, you're probably not going to be looking at 70%. Unless it's just really most of the time. I mean, look, everybody's different, right? Everybody's going to have something. But most of the time, you're going to see probably a 30%, maybe a 50%, in my opinion, right? I could be wrong. Unless you're looking at PTSD and other factors, right, for mental health. If you're just looking at, I have tinnitus, and that tinnitus is causing me depression, anxiety, insomnia, and that's the only thing that's causing that, then you're probably looking at a 30 to 50, in my opinion. Again, I mean, you could be at 70, who knows, right? You could be 100. I don't know. It just depends on how it affects you. All I'm saying is more often than not. Now, the next one is migraines. Your tinnitus, the ringing in your ears, could trigger migraine headaches, which suck bad. Could. Or it could not, and then you can't do this, right? But if it does, this is another avenue for you, and you could end up with a 10, a 30, or a 50% if you max out migraines. Now, there's all of these things that have to be taken into consideration, and everybody's situation is going to be different, right? It would be easy for me to sit here and say, hey, if you have tinnitus and you have insomnia and depression and anxiety because of it, and you have migraines because of it, you should be 100%, because you could get 100% on the mental health scale. But to me, that's a bit of a stretch, and I'm not going to say that because there could be somebody out there, but I'm just saying that it's probably not going to be that. You could probably get to a 70% combined rating with those three conditions alone, and that's where I'm going to give my example. So with that, let's talk about how the VA is going to first view your secondary conditions, okay? It's a little bit different than filing for a service-connected condition. So now you're already service-connected for your tinnitus. Great. That part's done. Now you're coming back at the VA to take another bite out of that VA apple. Now what you're looking at is, okay, I want to file for secondary conditions. So your secondary conditions are a little bit different because you still do need to have a diagnosis, right? You can't just say you have migraines. You have to go get diagnosed for it. You can't just say you have insomnia. You should go get diagnosed for it. And ideally, they're going to give you some sort of sleeping medication. You're going to get some sort of migraine medication. I personally like when we as veterans get prescriptions for things because it helps to basically solidify, for lack of a better word, your diagnosis, right? Because no doctor is going to prescribe you something for a condition that you're not diagnosed for, right? So it just helps to double down on the diagnosis. So now you have your diagnosis in place, so that part's done. Now the only other thing that you really need here for your secondary claim, remember, secondaries are different than your standard service-connected. Service-connected, you need to prove your time in service, gives you the window of opportunity. You need your diagnosed condition, and you need a nexus showing that it is either caused by or as a result of or manifested during your time in service. Okay, so that part's done with your tinnitus. Now, you've already proved your time in service. You don't need to do that. You have to prove your diagnosis. Got that. You have your condition. So you prove your condition with your diagnosis. Now, the third step here, or I guess second step, whatever. Your next step for your secondary condition is not a nexus to your time in service because you're not trying to get a service-connected condition. You're trying to get a secondary condition. So the nexus to your time in service is not relevant. What you're trying to say is essentially my nexus is tied to my existing service-connected condition, in this case tinnitus. So you should absolutely, I don't care if you write a letter, first of all. You can write a letter, that's great. But have your doctor write the Nexus letter for you, driving your new condition of migraines or insomnia or depression, anxiety, whatever, is as a result of your tinnitus, ringing in the ear, buzzing in the ear, whatever. It must point to that condition. You can say it too, but of course you're going to say it. You're the veteran. You need the doctor to double down on that for you and say it's because of your service-connected condition that you now have this condition. Now it's not disputable. The VA, how are they going to get around that? You have a doctor that's saying that your secondary condition is as a result of your service-connected tinnitus. Come at me, because if you're just going to have to take it to appeal if they turn you down for some reason. So button that up and get it submitted. Now let's talk about the math. Okay, the example that I just have in my head that I'm going to give you is not for this. This is just, I'm going to just use easy numbers for myself. So the way that the VA's math works is it's percentages of percentages. And I'll give you the true math for this scenario in a second. So hang on with me. The math for the VA is different. So let's say that you have 3 50% ratings. Now I already know there's no 50 for tinnitus. This is not a tinnitus example. Just 3 50s, okay? Head, knees, and shoulders, right? You got 50, 50, 50. So you have your 3 50s. Now, what the VA is going to do is they go, okay, veteran X, you have 3 conditions. Your highest one is 50. In this case, they're all 50. But your highest condition, we're going to take that first. Your highest condition is 50. That means you, veteran, are 50% bad. Well, guess what? That means you're still 50% good. Great. So now they sit your 50% bad over here. They take your 50% good and they go, okay, your next highest rating in this example is 50. 50% of your 50% good is 25%. We're going to take that 25 and add it to your 50 of bad. Now you're 75% bad. But you're still 25% good, aren't you? So then what they're going to do is they're going to go, they're going to look, and they're going to go, okay, your last condition here is another 50. You don't have any others, so your last condition's 50. So 50% of your 25% good is 12.5. Add that to your 75. Now you're 87.5. No more conditions. Okay, 87.5 rounds to 88. Then they go, okay, no more conditions, everything looks good, great. Your 88 rolls to 90, so you are a 90% rated veteran with 3 50% ratings. So that's how they're going to do the math. Now, there is a calculator that's, fairly new on the VA's website. And I'll put the link in the description, not description, because the links in the description don't really work. I'll try to remember to put the link in the comments when this goes up. So, what we're looking at here is you have your 10% for tinnitus, right? Then we're going to add your, we're going to call it chronic adjustment disorder, which is what the VA uses as their kind of catch-all umbrella for mental health conditions. And look, who knows where you're going to be? I'm going to say 30%. So now you're at 30% for your chronic adjustment disorder, and that takes you to a combined rating of 40% using the VA funny math. And usually with the low ratings, the math actually makes sense both ways, and then it's the higher you get that things start to change. So now we're going to add a rating, and I'm doing this on the VA's calculator here. And I'm going to add in, I'm going to reach over here to my keyboard, and I'm going to add in a 30% for migraines and see what this gives us. So calculate, that gives us a 60% rating. Now, if you were to have a 50% for migraines, you'd be at 70%. And it says, and here's the great part, this is really, really important for you. And for those that dropped off, I'm going to have to do another video because I already know that a lot of people drop off. So what's really great about this calculator, and there's other ones too. I mean, this one's on the VA's website, so I'm just going to promote it. But there's other ones that attorney firms and stuff put out as well. But it gives you a notation underneath, in this case, the 70% rating, that the actual combined value of your disability ratings is 69%. So this is really important because it lets you know how close you are to the next level. So in this case, let's say if your combined actual rating was 74%, you'd still be a 70% rated veteran, but you're at 74, which means you only need a little bump to get you to the 80. So it's important to know. So I highly suggest everybody utilize this to see what your true actual rating is, your true percentage. So this takes you to 70% with a 10% for tinnitus, 30% for chronic adjustment disorder, and 50% for your migraines. So either way, I mean, if you had those conditions, right, and you ended up at a 70 or a 60, both situations are not bad. A veteran alone with no spouse, no dependents is looking at a 70% rating of $1,663.06. And if you had a 60% rating with the same situation, veteran alone, no dependents, your 60% rating would be $1,319.65. Although that's going to change soon, I mean, well, next year, but the cost of living numbers will be coming in here shortly. So with that, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.